Good afternoon, everybody. Maya Angelou said that there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story within you. I wonder how many people here today have got something important that they'd like to say to someone or wish that they had, but they've held it inside and held themselves back from speaking the truth. How many times have you found yourself lying awake at 3 a.m., mulling over a conversation, thinking about the things that you wish you'd said or you wish you could? You might even play that conversation over in your head. The story develops, the narrative grows, you get a bit more confident. And somehow, in those moments, you manage to think about these really witty and smart comebacks that you wish you could have in the moment, or even if you did, you just wouldn't say it. But it feels quite good to say it, doesn't it? So you kind of play it over a few more times, and in each version of that story, you become even more confident and triumphant. I don't know about you, but I am really brave at conversations in my imagination. And I win all sorts of arguments, even with people that I don't know and I have never even met. One of the reasons I really like being a coach is because I really like to support other people to have those brave conversations and to see the satisfaction that we can get from having them. A lot of the people that I coach, of all ages and different stages in their life, just reach a point where you feel a bit stuck. You might even be a bit low in resilience or lacking in confidence. And at the heart of that issue, sometimes it's that there's at least one crucial conversation that if you felt brave enough to have, it could unlock that sense of stuckness. And even though you know it's a really important conversation to you, it just seems really high risk, so you choose not to have it. But the thing is, if there is something that you genuinely want to say, the chances are that there's someone who genuinely needs to hear it. So I wonder what it is that stops you from having some of those brave conversations. There's a few themes that I've picked up on, and I've struggled with most of them myself. One of them is empathy. We really care about people, we really care about their well-being, and that is exactly as it should be. But sometimes we overplay that empathy, and we start to assume unhelpfully that the other person isn't resilient enough to hear the truth. And indeed, we think we might damage them by our honesty. And then both parties lose out. Your well-being is undermined because you're not expressing yourself, you can't have your needs met. And then they can't thrive either, because how do you learn and grow without the truth? And then there's conflict. I don't know many people who wake up in the morning and really look forward to a bit of conflict. I'm sure we've met one of them, but let's give them a wide berth. Most of us dread conflict. We really worry about it. The idea of getting into a volatile or emotive conversation is really worrying. So we'll choose the relationship over the conversation, even though that relationship might not be in particularly great shape. And even though we know that out of conflict, you get growth and change. And then there is technology. It's never been easier to communicate with people we don't know hundreds of thousands of miles away. And it's never been harder to pick up the phone or to meet someone and have that honest conversation face to face. A lot of us have got to the point where we're hiding messages and true meanings in emojis, in texts and emails, hoping people will read between imaginary lines, and sometimes using technology as a shield or a barrier between yourself and the truth. And then the last one that I've picked up on is overthinking. What starts off as a kind of straightforward, easy conversation turns into a life-threatening catastrophe. So I need to tell this person that they've been late for work a few times and they need to come in. That seems quite low stakes, doesn't it? That's okay, I can do that one, that's okay. But what if they get angry? That's going to be really dodgy. So, or even worse, what if they cry? Or what if there's something going on for them that I don't know about, and then they'll think that I'm really horrible? And then what if they go outside and tell everyone else in the team, and then everyone else thinks that I'm horrible too, and then maybe even in the whole sector, everyone will hear that I'm kind of throwing my weight around and I'm a bit horrible, and then I could even go viral and then get to Scotland. Everything gets to Scotland. I don't know how it gets there. Everyone finds out everything, and then all these people in the Highlands will be saying, do you know, remember Sarah? Remember that Sarah, the one that moved to London? You know that one? Well, not only did she move to London, but like she's really horrible. And you know, she's like, what did she do? She went off to do some really crap drama degree. You know, she didn't even got a proper degree, and she's going around telling people what to do. And the people she's telling things to do, they've got real degrees, and then that's going to bounce back to me, and I'm just going to think, well, yeah, I mean, of course, this is the moment, isn't it, when everyone realizes that I'm just me, so I don't really even have the right to have that conversation, so I'll just do something a bit easier. Rather than have that conversation, maybe I'll just like, I don't know, like restructure the whole organization, and maybe even just promote that person, just to kind of push them along, and then I don't have to have that conversation. It's only a bit of an exaggeration as well. The main point of this leadership hack, though, is that having brave conversations is really crucial to our success at work, to our relationships, and to our well-being. So I thought that I would just offer you 6 easy tips and tools that I've picked up over the way that can make it a bit easier. Apparently you only remember 3 things from a presentation, so pick whatever 3 resonate the most. Okay, so number 1, give yourself permission to ask for what you want, and there's no need to dilute your requests. In order to ask for what we want, though, we've got to be really specific. What is it that I want? When do I want this? Have I checked in that I think I deserve this? And have the guts to ask for it. So many of us, we just put our heads down, we work really, really, really hard, we put in loads of hours, we're really helpful to everyone, and we just think, well, I'll get noticed and then I'll get offered what I want. But of course, that doesn't always happen, does it? And others, we kind of drop hints, hope that people will read our minds, and then we get a bit frustrated and maybe even passive-aggressive when we don't get what we want. You know, what is wrong with these people? Why don't they know that I want a 5% pay rise and lead that project by December? This is just not happening. And a lot of people I talk to, and I must say mostly, I have these conversations mostly with women, it's that sense of, it's selfish to ask for what you want, and it's a bit aggressive. I can ask for things for other people, I can ask for things for my organization, but asking things for me, that feels as though I'm putting my own needs ahead of others. But it's not selfish and aggressive to ask for what you want. It means that you know your self-worth. And then when you know what your self-worth is, then you can ask and be more brave about it. It doesn't mean that you'll get it, but at least you know where you stand, and then you can plan your own life accordingly. That's leadership hack number 1. Let's move on to number 2. It's okay to say no, and it's really good to get comfortable with it. So many of us reach a point, we feel overworked, we feel under pressure, work-life balance gets a bit out of the window. And on the whole, that comes down to us taking on too much and not saying no. And the reason we don't say no is because it just feels unhelpful, it feels confrontational. So a couple of things that will help you to say no. One is, check your mindset, because when you say no, you're not being unhelpful, you're saying yes to something else that's important to you. Yes to your priorities, yes to your values, yes to your standards of work. And it's really helpful to know how to say no. I learned this the hard way. My daughter, when she was 5, asked me if she could have some sweets. I said, I'd rather you didn't. Really assertive parenting, thank you very much. 5 minutes later, what was she doing? Having some sweets. So I said, excuse me, I think you'll find out. I said you couldn't have sweets. And she said, no, you didn't. You said, you'd rather I didn't, and I wanted to. So I thought, I'm going to have to nail this. So a good phrase that's helpful for saying no is, I'm going to say no. I understand you want me to stay for that meeting, and I'm going to say no because I have a family commitment this evening. I'm happy to help you tomorrow. It's clear and it's assertive, and it sounds less like an excuse that's up for negotiation. Of course, none of us want to overdo saying no, but if you overcommit to yes, you can burn out. People who say no tend to be more productive, have less stressful and happier lives. Leadership hack number 3, give some candid feedback and don't feel the need to sugarcoat your messages. Typical conversations that we avoid are things around behaviours other people are doing that might be chipping away at your confidence or undermining you, things that are getting in the way of you doing your job, relationships that aren't quite working. And we avoid these conversations because they seem really, really high risk. A couple of things that will help you do this. One is be really clear about what's the outcome of this conversation. Where am I heading towards that will help both parties? I'm not just going to speak my mind and download some emotion. There's a really good reason for having this. And once you've identified that, you can have a conversation that's not judgmental, you're not labeling behavior, you're sharing the facts, you're listening to the other person's perspective without being defensive, and you're agreeing a way forward that will benefit both. Of course, if you're willing to give candid feedback, it's really important to receive it as well without being defensive. And the most brave leaders I know are ones that actually seek that feedback out. They'll say, can you give me some feedback about things I do that don't work well in my leadership? And also give me some feedback about things that do work, because then I can continue to do it. Healthy relationships and healthy teams have an honest flow of conversation around anything to do with performance or behavior and relationships. Leadership hack number 4, and I'm linking this back to what Maria was saying as well, which I really agree with, it's give people specific compliments. Take the time to watch people do things really well and tell them exactly what they've done. So many times we can really sweat on what's the difficult feedback, let me gather the facts, let me really give a lot of energy to this. And then when we notice people do things well, we just say, well done, really good job, you're fab. Which feels kind of nice, but it's not necessarily motivating. Some of us, we don't know what we do well, unless someone tells us. And when we know, we can carry on doing it and we can get even better. It's also really kind to tell someone what they do well. And as Maria said, kindness is an underrated leadership behavior. Honestly, in my 10 years of coaching, I've never heard someone say, Sarah, the issue I want to work on today is I'm just getting so many compliments. I'm like, I'm so over this. Okay, I think we're on number 5, aren't we? So leadership hack number 5, choose the conversations that you have with yourself. I think all of us have an inner critic. And sometimes, particularly when we're low in resilience, that inner critic can distort the truth and really undermine our confidence. I remember a long time ago when I was sort of struggling, I was an actor, I didn't know what I was doing. Someone thought they were being really helpful and said, okay, Sarah, this is what to do. You just need to listen into your inner voice and it will tell you what to do. And I thought, okay, oh, but my inner voice is telling me I'm really shit and an embarrassment to my whole family. This isn't really helping me. This is really not helpful at all. But the thing is, it is helpful to tune into that inner voice, that inner critic, because we want to know, what are the patterns here? What's it telling me? What self-limiting beliefs am I creating? And then how am I sabotaging myself because of this voice? What we don't want to do is for the voice to be unconscious and it just chipping away at us and shaming us without even knowing it. The inner critic hates nothing less than facts and truth. So talk it down. Actually, let me listen to these messages. Is this the truth? Let me tell you about some things that I have done well. Let's look at some facts. Let's look at the positive feedback that I've received. Because when you talk your inner critic down, you can then consciously and courageously act against the stuff that it's telling you. Final leadership hack, support other people in having brave conversations. If we are in a position where we can ask for what we want, say no, give candid feedback, and have confidence that we have a right to be heard, then we'll find that we are in a position of privilege. And the systems and the structures that enable us to do that aren't necessarily available for everyone. So as important it is to speak up and speak out for yourself, it's really important to really look out for whose voices aren't being heard, and not necessarily having to speak up for them, but to be quiet and allow those voices to be amplified. These are the leadership hacks. Ask for what you want, get comfortable in saying no, give some candid feedback, give some really good specific compliments, tackle your inner critic, and allow others to have brave conversations too. When we are brave in speaking up about the things that undermine us, that are getting in the way of our confidence and well-being, that's when we can be really authentic, because we're being true to ourselves and to others. There's no magic wand. You might have a few awkward moments. You might even have to get comfortable with disappointing people. But that is a small price to pay if you have a chance for you and others to have the relationships, have the careers, and have the lives that you wish for. So think about these brave conversations that you might be keeping inside, and be brave and have them. Thanks so much. Thank you.